PodCastle, episode 911, for Tuesday the 30th of September 2025. Mycelium by Beth Goder, read by Tatiana Gray and produced by Eric Valdes. Rated PG. Good morning, good day, good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to PodCastle, the flying castle of fantasy fiction. I am once again your host, Matt Dovey, and it is my privilege to present for your enjoyment Mycelium by Beth Goder, narrated by Tatiana Gray. This story was first published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, July 2022. Firstly, sorry for being away. Real life day job got a lot for a moment there. Again, words are being had. Secondly, if you're listening to this today, I suppose you're always listening to this today, but specifically I mean on Tuesday 30th September 2025, then remember that this is your last chance to lock in the ad-free Patreon tier at only $5, for it goes up to $7 next month. Tomorrow, October 2025. Ads are something we've resisted for one hecking long time. 17 and a half years on the internet. But unfortunately, our plans to use our new US non-profit status to access arts grants and funding kinda fell apart when the White House was once again occupied by a certain someone whose idea of high art is simply gold plating. All those lovely grants aren't any use to anyone now unless you're celebrating 250 years of US independence with the funding, which isn't really our purpose. So, yeah, big neo-fascist black hole in our previous funding plans. Sorry. The ads will only ever be pre-roll and post-roll. We will never interrupt your story to sell you a mattress. But you can avoid even those ads if you join our Patreon at patreon.com/EA podcasts for $5 today or $7 thereafter. Subscribers and donations will still make up the vast majority of our funding and will always be a more reliable part of our budgeting. So if you are able to, it makes a huge difference to us in doing what we do and paying every creative involved in doing it, which in turn makes a huge difference in us opening up opportunities to traditionally underrepresented groups that might otherwise not be able to justify purely voluntary work due to the ever-present systemic and intersectional pressures that drive down income for anyone outside the narrow band of usual suspects. We're doing our best to do our bit to make publishing a better place for more people, and we couldn't do it without you. Your author today, Beth Goder, is an archivist and author. Over 40 of her short stories have appeared in venues such as Escape Pod, the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, Analog, Clarkesworld, Lightspeed, Flash Fiction Online, and Horton's The Year's Best Science Fiction and Fantasy, among others. You can find her online at www.bethgoder.com. Your narrator, Tatiana Gray, is a critically acclaimed actress of stage, screen, and the audio booth. She's been nominated for dozens of fancy awards, but hasn't won a single damn thing. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. See more about Tatiana at www.tatianagray.com. And now pay attention, for our tale is about to begin. Now is the season to tell it.
Mycelium by Beth Goder, narrated by Tatiana Gray. I only travel to the Golden Head when the dragonflies are in season. It's Pyack and me this year, rafting up the river past the lilies and arched trees. While I steer us through the river's gentle snarls, he sings about lost keys to pass the time. He's always had a thing about lost keys, and the doors they'll never open, the places we'll never find. "Are you going to eat what the head gives you?" asks Pyack. He's 1 year older than I am, 19. With the sun behind him, His form swims in light. The dragonflies buzz around us, brush their wings against our faces. Payak's scent is like apples after harvest, and the soft smell of bark, and some deeper, stranger thing. The first time I saw him, he was running through flax fields for the joy of it. I dropped my basket to join him, feet smashing through fallen stems. We were two wild children, stomping across logs, burrowing into fleecy snow, cracking open walnuts like badgers, and scuffling through the shells. That feels so long ago now. He brushes dragonflies from my cheek, and as he cups his hand, it looks as if he's catching the setting sun. The golden head sits on the bank of the river, far from Malaga and the other river towns. It towers over the arched trees, a sun coming up over the mountains. The face has two spaces where the eyes should be, like doors leading to a world that looks like the one you left, but isn't. Once, the head had a crown, but now the top is a jagged ruin. The gold is run through with molten green, tiny rivers caressing the metal. I touch the blunt teeth, and the head shudders awake. It recognizes me, the mouth creaking open. A golden tongue emerges, presenting a mushroom, as it does every year. Perhaps my fear of the golden head comes from my desire to see it again, to hold close what it gives me. And Payak, he's here because I am. And because this is the sort of door he could never open on his own. Last winter, I found a sapphire key under a snowbank. The jagged edges left indentations in my palm, and underneath the paint, bits of rust shone through. It reminded me of the golden head, the way the corrosion ran through it, a once loved thing, now forgotten. When I showed it to Payak, he tucked it into his pocket. "I'll see if I can find what it opens," he said. Every year, the head gives me a mushroom laid out on its golden tongue. Each time, I imagine how that mushroom came to exist, how a sprawling web of hyphae had to converge, each tendril working its way through the soil. I have a theory that the head was once like me, a person who had an obligation. Little gods often are. It could have been a simple responsibility, perhaps to mend a bridge after a blustery storm, or to make sure the beehives were tended. Perhaps the head was once a person who knew where to find the best mushrooms, the ones that weren't poisonous. When we find these little gods in the world, we have to tend them, don't we? And all this one seems to want is for me to take the mushroom that it offers. This is a simple request, and so I fulfill it every year when the dragonflies emerge. This year, the mushroom is rough under my hands, still clinging to bits of earth. I wash it off in the river. I have never eaten a mushroom that comes from the golden head. Instead, I take the mushrooms to my garden, spreading their invisible spores, letting the earth reclaim them. Payak pokes his head into the mouth, curious. "It's getting too dark to see," he says. Against the falling light, the jagged edges at the top of the head silhouette themselves like blackbirds. I think of where the crown should be and wonder if the head ever misses it. Let's wait until morning to raft back. I put the mushroom into my pocket, intending to bury it in my garden next to the patch of lavender. Perhaps this mushroom will spiral around the roots, interlocking there, sending hyphae into the cool darkness underneath. "How many times have you come here?" asks Pyack as we turn to go back to the raft. 7 times? 8? The sun has truly set now. The stars burn like keyholes in the door of the sky. "And it's always just you? You never find anyone else here?" "I've wondered about that too. The way I found the head was strange. There was this scent, like the best thing you've ever smelled, and I followed it. Ever since, I've been finding hidden things." Pyack pulls out the sapphire key, a shadow in the dark, then disappears it again. "You've always been good at finding hidden things." He grows playful, jumps behind me and tugs at the back of my shirt, like he used to do when we were children playing branch and badger. "But you don't always see everything." "That's why I have you," I say, running behind him to tug his shirt, accidentally pulling him back so that he stumbles against me. We steady ourselves in the darkness. The raft is up ahead. His tone grows serious. "Why haven't you brought me here before?" "I didn't know if you'd want to come," I say, unable to voice the true reason. Something has changed about Pyack, or myself. I imagined us together in this secret place, with the golden head that would not speak, with the mushroom I would not eat. Other people would have asked a question which meant this: why not let this small god dissipate? It is not a great power to produce one mushroom from the earth, a simple mushroom that could be rooted out by pigs or dogs. But Pyack never asks questions that are judgments. There is such a comfort in not having to explain oneself. The truth is that this was one thing I could do in the world, so I did it. On the raft, Pyack curls up on a fishing net. "There's enough room for both of us," he says, and the scent of apples and bark and some stranger, deeper thing swirls around me. I think of mushrooms calling with their bright smells to the animals who will carry them in their mouths and stomachs. These scents that lure us to underground places. I touch the edge of the raft, feel it dipping into the water, a barrier that I want to cross, but can't. Not yet. Last summer, I found a ruby key covered in fungal spores, hidden in the dewy grass behind the cottage on the hill. I tried every door before I came to Pyack, jamming the key in all those locked spaces. "I don't know what it opens either," said Pyack. "You keep that one." I wake to the smell of bark and the river. I am slumped against a fallen log. Strands of bark have worked their way into my hair. I find Pyack in front of the golden head. He's examining the mouth, but now the blunt teeth have shut. "I wish I could give something back to the head," I say. "Every year when I take the mushroom, I think of this." I look to the top of the head, where the crown should be. I would run my hand against those sharp edges, but they're too high for me to reach. I wish I knew what the head longs for. Pyack sighs, as if he knows all about unfulfilled longing. "What happens if you come here your whole life, taking a mushroom every year, never eating it?" In the wet soil of my garden are the spores from the golden head. Their mycelium networks connect underground, and above ground, The mushrooms sit like knobs to a door I've never been able to open. I don't want things to change, I say. Blue dawn light wends its way down to us, turning the eye gaps in the head a lovely dusk. Payak takes my hand. I imagine our arms are like hyphae reaching out, like one mycelium network searching for another. When I kiss him, it is like the sky opening up, one vast blue river. I smell apples and bark and some deeper, stranger thing. I've wanted to kiss you for so long, he murmurs. His hands are soft as sorrel. My hands are dusted with dirt, but Payak doesn't seem to mind. Slowly the sun rises above us, one bright doorway in an infinity of blue. A golden head, a golden light. I stare into the eye sockets of the head, wondering about lost keys and the places we find and the places we don't. Wondering about the places we make for ourselves, carving doorways in dirt and sand and air. Payak sits next to me. He brushes an arm against me, and I lean into the hollow of his shoulder. I feel as if I've been buried in snow and have come up to the sun, like a hidden key, like the shell of a walnut, like a mushroom finding the light for the first time. I take out the ruby key, watching how the light pushes into the shadowed teeth. Beside me, Payak pulls out his sapphire key. Some doors you walk through, and you can never walk back. We never did find what these open, I say. The river churns in the distance, steady as a heartbeat, going where all rivers go. I enfold him in my arms. We lean against the golden head. Slowly, the head shifts until two keyholes emerge under the chin, melting from the gold like a river flowing around stones. With trembling fingers, I push my key inside. Payak does the same. The head absorbs the keys. The green corrosion melts away and travels upward, forming a crown which sits at the top of the head. The head smiles, looking upon us with beneficence. We'll come back next year, I promise, when the dragonflies emerge. Gently, it begins to rain. Mushrooms bloom all around us.
And welcome back. That was Mycelium by Beth Goder, and if you enjoyed that, then there's a couple of her other stories in our archive for you to dig up. 724, The Cinnamon Thread, and 674, Putting Secrets from Stones. She's also had multiple stories each on Escape Pod and Cast of Wonders, which you can easily find by going to the website post for this story and clicking Beth's name just below the title, which give you links to her author page on our sisters' sites. And if that's still not enough, there's oodles more going back 10 years on her website, bethgoder.com. Beth sent us these notes for Mycelium. The first draft of this story was written for a contest for my writing group. I wrote it in a discovery writing style, as I often do for flash fiction, where I didn't know exactly what would come next as I was going. Mycelium went through many drafts. It was the story I always returned to when I was procrastinating on other projects. I was reading Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake at the time, a fascinating non-fiction book about fungi which inspired much of this story. Thank you, Beth, for the story and the notes. I have a lot of rambling thoughts about this one, partly because my brain is tired as all the burnout catches up in this couple of weeks of leave, and partly because it's a story that is content to sit with its complexity and not condescend to explain it all. Take from it what you will, what you can, and that will be different from me, and that is beautiful, and that is the point. That's why we art. For me, today, I keep coming back to connections, the web of hyphae that links us all. I am thinking about the post-diagnostic autism support group they finally scheduled for me after forgetting about me, and how, after all this waiting, it feels less useful to hear these things from hyper-qualified clinical practitioners than any single conversation I've had with another autistic person. Turns out all the book reading and academic study in the world really isn't a patch on lived experience. Who knew? I'm thinking about the conversations I've had in the past about how I don't know what autistic success looks like. I only know what it doesn't look like, because I spent nearly 40 years not understanding I was a square peg being forced into a round hole, and so aspiring to round-shaped ideas of happiness, and I can't now unlearn it. All I can do is stand between the world and my kids and prevent them from learning the wrong ideas in the first place, in the hopes they will work out what autistic success actually is, if they're not trying to emulate TV advert ideas of Christmas and family holidays and aspirational consumerism. I am thinking about how no one can tell us as autistic people, how to understand ourselves and our world except us, and that the answers need to come from within our community, our web, and can't be given to us by anyone else, no matter how authoritative. I'm thinking about the shitty experience my wife and I had yesterday on a day out that should have been relaxing, straightforward, uneventful, but how the systemic ableism threw it all into a spiral of anxiety and humiliation, and how angry that made me, and the hours I've therefore spent today, on a day off, making sure the venue understands how wrong it is and that they do better next time. Not because we will ever go back to benefit, because the anxiety will be too much to ever allow that, but purely for the sake of the next disabled person who goes through their doors and deserves to be treated the same as anyone else would. No one will fight this fight for us but us, because no one else sees it but us. I'm thinking about a writing friend who died of cancer yesterday morning, who deserved more time, deserved more recognition, deserved more from the world. I'm thinking of his kids and wife, and I'm heartbroken that John is gone from us and that there's a hole in our web now. And I'm thinking about this line in our story today. When we find these little gods in the world, we have to tend to them, don't we? No other justification than we have to tend to others, don't we? Without doubt, without argument, without hesitation. That was our show for this week. On behalf of everyone at PodCastle, your co-editors Wanini Kamamia and Devon Martin, assistant editor Caitlin Zavanovich, audio engineer Eric Valdes, and our many wonderful first readers, Andrew Cahoe, Balawan Conte, Craig Jackson, Amalia Harrington, Habiba Dakubo, Julia Patt, Kieran Corsini, Tania Barry, Tarva Nova, Tierney Bailey, Zeev Witties, and myself, Matt Dovey. Thank you for letting us share another story with you. The legal bit. PodCastle is part of the Escape Artists Foundation, a 501c3 non-profit, and this episode is distributed under the Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. That means you can share it, and please do, but you cannot sell it and you cannot change it. If you want specifics, check creativecommons.org. Our music is by Shiva in Exile. Everything we do on PodCastle is 100% donor funded. And if you'd like to support what we and the rest of EA do, please join us on our Patreon at patreon.com/EAPodcasts. Prefer another method? There's details for supporting us via Twitch, Amazon Prime, Ko-fi and PayPal on escapeartist.net. We'll be back next Tuesday with another fantastic tale. In the meantime, you might care to check out our sister podcasts: Escape Pod for science fiction, Pseudopod for horror, Cast of Wonders for YA speculative fiction, and Cat's Cast for speculative cat stories. If your heart belongs to us, though, we'll see you next week. Be safe and be kind.